counter punch.
It's another exciting edition of Sports Talk here on Atlantic Television Network. In this edition of the program, 200 athletes to compete in a karate championship. Coming in from the wall of tennis, Carlos Alcaraz exits the Paris Masters. And in football, Super Falcons get closer to the Olympic Games in Paris next year. This is of this. We'll return from the break. Stay with us.
Telling him not to counter punch.
Me, award-winning Sarah James. Nice to have you, Sarah.
Good morning, Cyril. Good to be with you on the show again.
Well, we'll get started, and as usual, we'll look at activities of the sports minister, former Nigeria sports minister, actually come of high praise for the income, the present sports minister, John Dewan, for the minister of sports. He believes that sports minister, new sports minister is on the proper track, given his activities in the last few weeks.
Well, I think it's a good one, whereas former, sports minister who gave us a lot to talk about, Solomon Dalong, has come out saying that Minister Eno will be starting, on a good note and all of that. I think all of this would have been as a result that Eno probably would have, consulted both Dalong and, of course, his immediate, predecessor. That's talking about the Sunday Diary, because sometimes, Nigerians are this kind of people where once you approach them and then you want to find out some of the things they did in the past to succeed, they see you as someone, they begin to give praises on you. And I think one of the suspects and one of the reasons why Dalong has come out heaping praises on him is the fact that maybe he would have consulted him to say, okay, what happened, I need to know, because for one to succeed you must consult with those. That way it will give you an ample opportunity to get to know more about the ministry. I think all of that are some of the reasons why he's heaping praises on him. But then true first of it all, Eno has started on a very good note, and we hope that he keeps this momentum going. We've seen situations where sports ministers will come, they will really some stadium tours and all of that, and after a short while you see them go back to sleep. But we hope that Eno, given what he has said, he said when he came on board initially, he said that he's not, familiar with this terrain, but he knows that his wealth of experience in other areas, will help him succeed. And we just hope that he keeps the momentum good. Every minister that has come has done one thing or the other, no matter how bad, we want to say they are. Sunday Diary, one of the things we can remember him for is the fact that he brought about, adopt one athlete, and, we saw how, brought, some companies to refurbish some of the. One would not completely say even Solomon Dalong or even the immediate past minister was bad. We hope that Eno does better than his other two.
The new sports minister getting started on the proper footing. He's actually networked with critical stakeholders in the sector, and I think Solomon Dalong is one which he must have consulted in, from where we're having reports of his proper footing in the sports ministry. After networking, we'll begin to see results of the meeting with the critical stakeholders in the sporting sector here in Nigeria. Away from that, we'll bring you this latest report that from tomorrow to the feet of the Tesla Balogun Stadium over 200 karateka are expected to compete at the 9th edition of the Female Karate Championship scheduled to take place in Lagos. This is interesting. Over 200 karateka are taking part in one championship over a 3-day period.
Well, you just reeled out the story, and I'm beginning to wonder if, over 200, athletes, it's an international competition, a national competition. And that's where...
National competition.
National competition, then that's huge. Where you're going to be having over 200 karat players. It is that the federations, the associations in Lagos, they know how to get, these private sectors, partnering with them and getting things working. I think it's a good one.
Good one coming in from Lagos State, where over 200 karatekas, especially the females, be involved in a 3-day championship. And we hope that the Karate Federation of Nigeria definitely will keep an eye on this one and seeing how to catch them very young in the championship of this. Away from that, we go to rugby, and South Africa declares public holiday to celebrate their rugby glory. Remember, a couple of days ago, especially at the weekend, we saw the rugby team of South Africa take out their counterparts from New Zealand by 1 point. Yes, 12-11 win of winning the World Cup, and that was their 4th World Cup overall. This is something very big in South Africa, worthy enough to be given a public holiday for celebration.
Well, I saw that, I saw that report that they were going to be given public holiday, and we hear that it's going to be sometime in the month of November when the schools are finished, their exams and all of that. And I think it's the right way to go, where the president has to consider the fact that these academicians are in school, and then, it has to be, when they finish their exams. I think it's a good one. This is the 4th time South Africa is winning the Rugby World Cup. The last time they won was against, England, and then they won, and this time around, maybe it's their area of strength. And I think this is where Nigeria will also have to borrow a leaf from South Africa. Look at your area of strength. If you think that you're not winning the World Cup, you're not winning the African Cup of Nations as you should, as the giant of Africa, then you begin to put your strength in a particular sport where you think that, okay, this could just be my area of strength. Let's see how we can put more energy into that particular sport, and then let the entire world know us with that sport. South Africa is known with rugby, and of course, there's no surprises, no flukes that they are winning it for the 4th time.
4th time in a row, 4th time over in their career. We've seen South Africans win the Rugby World Cup, and that's the biggest you can find in the sports of rugby. And something interesting here, we're having Blacks captains lifting the trophy on the 2nd occasion. So it looks like the Blacks are dominating in rugby.
Well, it's a country where, they are mixed with white and blacks. And of course, aside that, we've seen even in Europe proper, where most of the people who do well in basketball, in football, and in virtually all the sports are blacks. And I can tell you for free that even in some of these European countries, you find some Nigerians doing pretty well there. So it's not just, about blacks, but something that even Nigerians are also doing well. I think, the blacks are really gifted. So if you look around even in Europe, you find out that the blacks are really doing well in sports, and of course even in other spheres like entertainment.
Congratulations to South Africa for lifting the Rugby World Cup for the 4th time, and we just hope that the Rugby Federation here in Nigeria will begin to learn the tricks of how we've seen South Africa return to the top, or let's say summit of World Cup for a record.
Should it just be rugby in Nigeria?
Well,
we are not, it's not our area of strength, so we need to identify our own area of strength and then, put in more energy into it, because rugby is not our thing. But then, thank God we now have a new team, and then we hope that even though they're not going to be at the Olympics, they didn't qualify to be at the Olympics, we hope that, like you said, they also borrow a leaf from South Africa, even not winning the World Cup, but then, let it also be one of our area of strength.
Well, physicality is very key in the sports, and I think as Africans, especially Nigerians, we should be very physical enough to get through with rugby. Away from rugby, let's go to squash, and I can tell you, Nigeria's top-ranked squash players in the men and women's category, Onaboepo Adekoke and Rafiat Abdulaziz, have qualified for the 3rd round of the ongoing Prime Atlantic Squash Open. The 2nd edition of the competition will get on the 4-day event served off at the Tesla Balogun Stadium only yesterday. It is getting interesting here. Squash, you will say it's not our thing, but we've not had it dominant at the continental level. At the national championship, we see, squash players emerge as champions, but they don't seem to take it to the next level.
Well, it's one sport I'm not so familiar with. The last time they had an event, that was last year, I was in charge of the media, the press briefing, and I'm sure that was the first time, I was watching, squash players, do well somewhere, in one of these multi oil companies here in River State. But then, the fact that, we're beginning to do well, gradually, we just hope that, like we talked about in rugby, we should channel our energy into other sports and see and identify those ones that we have our strength, and then see if those are the ones we can, give more attention.
We really have to give attention to this, do I say lesser sports? And everybody seems to know more and do more about football and maybe tennis, but talking about the game of squash, definitely it needs some attention here in Nigeria.
Well, you talk about tennis. If you can play squash, I think you should have the energy to also play tennis.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. And we've had some women who are beginning to show the difference in squash. Mostira Durasulu, we have Blessing Isaac, there is Ahmed, there is Udeme James. Several women are now beginning to get interested, and some of them now are already into the third round of the ongoing squash championship at the Teslim Balogo Stadium. We just hope that these ladies will find the competitive edge to get it from just Nigeria, from not just here in Nigeria, but at least across to the continent. Let's get to basketball. And in basketball, the Nigerian Basketball Federation has announced the dates and venue for the league. We are told that in an emergency meeting on Monday, they have decided that they will have a final 8 teams or a conference 8 final. This is a little bit different from what we were told before, but now we know that 16 clubs have been invited to participate in the league that will see the Savannah and the Atlantic Conference put together with 4 teams emerging from each of these conferences.
Well, there's this saying that, one thing that is constant is change. This wasn't, the original plan, but then, we hear that it could be Abuja and Ibadan also that will be hosting it. For me, I don't think there's anything wrong about it. If we can get states, with the facilities, with the wherewithal to ensure that we have a hitch-free, finals, I think it's a good one. The last time it was Lagos that hosted the finals, and this time they are moving it elsewhere. Let it just go around. Maybe the next time it might just, be, one of the states in the south, and probably, Port Harcourt.
Well, one of the states in the south, but why can't we, cautiously, seek for this than wait for it to be given to us?
But I do think that we have to cut, the organizers some slacks at this point.
Well, some of the organizers definitely will be caught some slack at this point. We're talking about basketball. The biggest one is the NBA in the United States of America, and its season is just into maybe just about 4 games, but we're having some top players begin to move from one franchise to the other. James Harden, we are told, is now LA Clippers player. He's now moved. Do you see here his movement getting proper? Everybody knows that James Harden and John Tucker right now are the latest trade players for the LA Clippers.
Well, I think it's a good move, but I think, for me, I don't know, ever since Nuggets became the champions, I've just had my attention focused on them. Probably as a lover of the underdog, so I have less attention given to other clubs in the NBA.
Well, the announcement is imminent that Tucker and James Harden will now be moving from Philadelphia 76ers all the way now to LA Clippers, and it looks a very good one.
I actually saw the reports anyway.
And Westbrook would definitely be very happy because both of them have played together in 2 other franchises, and now they are coming to meet again in Clippers, and that looks very
sort
good.
Of a reunion.
Yeah, only last night, talking about the LA Clippers, they beat Orlando Magic by 118 to 102 points, and that was a good way to welcome the new players into the locker room, and we just hope that they will find some rest because there's yet another fixture coming up tomorrow night, early hours of tomorrow, and it is believed that they should be part of it. But one player that distinguished himself in the fixture was Paul George, who has done so well for himself as well. So,
I want to throw a question back to you. You have so much love for the NBA. Tell me why.
Basketball is one game I love a lot. But besides that, basketball is
love for the NBA is something I can't explain.
But it's like if you're a follower of football and and you don't like the Champions League, then this is
anti-football.
Maybe. So the NBA is the biggest basketball, championship in the world.
Which seems to be your favorite team, the team you have soft spot for? LA Lakers?
Well, not LA Lakers. I really go for teams that feature some of the Nigerian greats, and right now we don't seem to have.
You're being your brother's keeper.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Exactly. And still talking about the NBA, it's interesting for us to know at this point in time that Nigeria seem to have, the highest number of basketball players in the NBA across for Africa.
You see, like I told you.
Yes.
One, we talked about a black captain on the side that won the world rugby. Nigerians are really doing well abroad, even in athletics. You look at some of these countries that are fantastic. You find out that some of these, athletes who represent those countries are Nigerians. So, kudos to Nigerians. We're too much. And then from River State, if we have to talk about basketball, there's one man who must give credit to the man who has been, grooming, basketball players, Coach Fubara Yanabo. And so I'm not surprised, the fact that we have, a lot of, Nigerian, basketball players, and we've seen that they come in. One good thing about these basketball players in Nigeria is that they're coming from the states or where time and the stage tournament, they try to give back to the country.
Talking about basketball and the NBA, which is still on, and by the early hours of this morning, we saw Portland Trail Blazers lose to 76ers, 126 to 98 points there, giving victory to the Philadelphia 76ers. And the one big man in that squad is Joe Embiid from Cameroon. He's been fined for making obscene gestures. Sometimes you wonder why this big name player, Joe Embiid, of course, the most valuable player for last season in the NBA, should not be involved in making obscene gestures. Good 85 points in the match involving Portland Trail Blazers. He had 15 rebounds and 7 assists. So Joe Embiid for winning, but he has to have some bank deductions in the early hours of today to the tune of $35,000 US. Don't put it to naira, then you understand how heavy this fine is. Well, let's wrap up this half of the show with some golf story. The 4th edition of the Golf Championship is set to kick off, and that will be on the 6th of November, with over 100 pro and amateur golfers expected to fight for naira prize money that will be on the showcase.
Well, this the 3rd edition, where of course I was in charge of the press briefing in that edition, and of course there was also a press briefing to that effect 2 days ago. And so we're hoping to see the best of golfers. The last event had the #1 golfer here in Nigeria. I mean, a Lagos-based golfer from the Koi Golf Club, winning it, and he went away with 20 million naira, and that's huge, for our economy. But then the beauty of it is that I also saw women who had other consolation prizes. They won some millions. So it may not be up to 10, but then they also won some millions. And this time around, we hear there have been an improvement upon, which is 22 million naira. So we hope this time too we're going to be seeing their players from African countries, not just West Africa. But for me, I'll be rooting and hoping that in Nigeria gets to win that money, because based on our economy, I wouldn't want a situation where someone from outside will come and then win that money and then will not spend the money in our country. So one of the biggest golf tournaments.
Port Harcourt, Nigeria, 100 over 100 golfers will taking part in this one, male to be precise, and we have
male
about
and female and kids.
40 of
kids,
them will be taking part in this one. That's quite a number, and it will be a spectacle.
So it tells you that the future of golf is bright in Nigeria, and there's so much money in golf.
A lot of money to cut home if you are a golfer. But let's guess.
I think I'm particularly concerned about the kids. Looking at the future of golf in Nigeria, and how these kids can cash in on the opportunity given to them.
Well, I think that is the way to go. Catch them young with the interest garnered early enough in the sport. They will continue with it, and by the time they reach in their early 20s, they become established golfers, and that will be a plus for Nigeria. So if you're around the city of Port Harcourt, definitely it would be nice to go to the Python Golf Club and be part of the action.
It starts on the 6th.
That's it, and that will be this weekend. time for us to take a break. When we return from the break, we'll go to tennis, and of course, the Paris Masters is ongoing, and big names are beginning to fall. Stay with us.
Telling him not to counterpunch. Telling him not to counterpunch. Telling him not to counterpunch. Telling him not to counterpunch.
Back sports talk here on the line walk, and we'll keep you updated with the latest happening around the world of sports. And if you're a tennis follower, definitely, and if you follow the new sensation in tennis, Carlos Alcaraz, former world #1, then it looks like you really have to keep looking because he looks like he's deteriorating now. He's been beaten at the Paris Masters, player by any standard you want to think of, but in the last few months, he's been falling from one tournament to the other. The test victim or the big name player to crash at the Paris Masters.
Well, it's unfortunate, we saw Alcaraz early this year and sometime, late last year, and we felt it was going to be the future of male tennis. But unfortunately, that isn't happening. At the last US Open, we saw him falter to eventual finalist and the quarterfinals. And just yesterday, he has lost to world number 45. So it tells you that the younger ones are not consistent, and that's why the likes of Novak Djokovic to keep ruling the world of tennis. The older generation will keep ruling the world of tennis. I mean, the younger ones are knocking, but they are not consistent in their knocking. If as it is now, we had about 3-4 young players, who are really strong, who have kept that consistency like Alcaraz kept in the last 1 year. I'm sure the likes of Novak Djokovic would have seen their retirement date on the wall. But because they are not seeing, that pressure from the younger ones, their morale kept, going higher, that they can still rule the world of tennis for the next 3-4 years. And that's what is playing out. Quite unfortunate for the young man Alcaraz. I said it when he became world number 1. Somebody this year, I said, how long can he manage his success, to be world number 1? He was dethroned. And then after a while, he dethroned Novak Djokovic. He came back again as world number 1. And of course, having been dethroned, he will number 3 or even below world number 3.
And one big name that was in action, though in the double category, was Novak Djokovic. Did you follow him?
Well, I didn't follow him, but I've always believed that he still has enough gas. Like I said, when you don't have people, putting mountain pressure on you, your confidence will keep growing higher and higher, and that's why he will keep doing what he knows how to do best.
Well, the men are in Paris, the females are in Mexico, Cancun, Mexico, and one big name that has moved past yet another is Coco Gauff. She needed just 57 minutes to beat Africa's best female tennis player, Ange Jabeur, in the opening match at the WTA finals. And Coco Gauff is continuing to march on. She won her first 7 games before an hour where we saw rain disrupt the games.
Well, fantastic one for Coco Gauff. Seems she has taken the baton, from Serena Williams. I mean, she seemed to be on fire. And one thing, that, have been, a source of worry for me is the fact that she's been changing coaches. I think this is about her future. But then, we must take the positive from the fact that she's changing her coaches. If she's not doing well and she's changing the coaches, it would have been a serious source of worry. But the fact that she's doing pretty well, I think she's on track. I mean, she's got about 50 wins so far this year. And 8 of those wins, 10 of those wins have come, against one of the top, 8. I mean, top, 8 in the tennis ranking. So I think she's doing pretty well. And of course, she looks like, ending the year on a high.
Talking about one person that wants to end the year on high is Iga Swiatek, former world number 1. She came from 5-2 down in the opening set to defeat Wimbledon champion Marketa Vondrousova. 7-6 love. Is Iga Swiatek really running at top speed at regaining her world number 1 status?
Well, she's doing everything to get back to the world number 1. If there's one lady who has brought that level of consistency to the women's game, it's Iga Swiatek. But then she struggled in the first set. But then she had that determination, that dog turned back before the end of the year, and of course she kept her focus, she kept her cool, and then at the end of the day, victory was her.
Talking about Iga Swiatek, former world number 1, trying to regain her world status, I think she's gotten a helping hand already because only a few hours ago, Jessica Pegula from the United States of America helped her beat the world number 1 Aryna Sabalenka, and that in that match at the quarterfinals to qualify for the semi-finals of the WTA event going on in Cancun.
Pegula herself also a fantastic player, but that's why we kept telling athletes, just ignore what to play out between your next opponent or what plays out in the other matches. Focus on your game. Once you get your results, then if you're on a clean stand, you now watch out what will happen. So the fact she got hers done, she had done her homework, and of course it went her way, and then she's on place, and now Pegula has done finished work for her. So I mean, it's a good one for her.
We're talking about the world number 1 Aryna Sabalenka in the female tennis. She had got herself.
For how long will she enjoy the world number 1? Swiatek is on the way.
3 from forced errors cost her to lose to Pegula. 4-6-3. That match ended a few hours ago, and I'm very sure status is on that track. Elena Sabalenka is Elena Rybakina is one player too who is pushing very strong at getting at the world top position because she beat Maria Sakkari 6-7-6, 6-7-6, and with this victory now, it looks like Elena Rybakina definitely to have his claim
Rebecca is also one of the good players in the women's game. She's kept some level of consistency, but then she hasn't been able to reach the top itself.
Well, very difficult top level for Elena Rybakina, but I think she is beginning to show her stuff. The lady from Kazakhstan show how good she could be.
She's actually not a pushover player.
And talking about the lady from Belarus, talking about Arina Sabalenka, she really has to be very strong, because if she doesn't, get any better from now on, definitely that number one status could be returning back to Iga Swiatek.
Sure, the lady who has kept that will definitely take it back before the end of the year.
Later today, we will be seeing action between Marketa Matrosova and Onjeboa. Onjeboa, she's Africa's biggest tennis sensation in the female category. She's been to 3 Grand Slam finals and lost all. And it looks like she's even beginning to lose, take over steps from the pedal, because she's not getting to the finals of. This is WTA. If she wins the WTA, it's almost as big as the Grand Slam. Slightly. The WTA finals is the next biggest tennis event to the Grand Slam, and she looks like she may not get to the final.
She's Africa in the female tennis circuit, but truth has to be told, when you lose 1, 2, 3 finals, you're just a human. Sometimes the morale gets to drop, and this is where she needs a psychologist to also make her understand that the fact that you have in 3 finals makes you a potential champion. Just keep pushing.
Keep what Taylor is advising Africa's best female tennis player, Onjeboa from Ethiopia. She has to push. She's lost 3 Grand Slam final consecutively, and it doesn't look too good. But for today, she has Marketa to contend with, to see whether she can get to the stage of the W finals in Cancun. Later today as well, we'll see one aggressive, I must eye on the match between Swiatek Kukov, a Polish against
that's one game that needs no introduction, and I think I'll have my side for that particular encounter.
Swiatek, former world number 1 striker.
Because I have very strong soft spot for Swiatek, but I have soft spot for Kukov. In this particular tie, I would think that Kukov is a dog. She's the champion, but given the experience of the 2 players, you might want to give Swiatek some, you might want to put Swiatek a little bit, higher than Kukov. But then, the way Kukov has, demonstrated she's going to sit into the last, couple of months, I do think that's, well, let me stay on the fence.
Well, I think momentum is with Kukov as we speak. She looks like the new lady right now in the world of that. Again, experience is, and of course,
cannot be bought with money.
Yeah, it's on the side of Iga. So tonight we'll have an eye on for you. Clearly, tomorrow morning on African Sports Talk, but on the Sports Extraordinary, we'll look at the big highlights of that fixture. Away from tennis, now let's go to football. And in football, it's match day 6 in the Professional Football League here in Nigeria today. But one fixture in the 6th, Doma United versus Insurance, has been rescheduled. I don't know. Can't we just tick, to calendar?
Well, if you're giving us excuses that the team is playing on the continent and that's why the match should be rescheduled, is understandable. But I mean, since the league started, we've just had match day 1 to match day 4, if I'm not mistaken. And then we've seen about 3, 4 rescheduled matches, though some were due to continental engagement, and that's matches involving Rivers United and Bendel Insurance. But aside that, we've also seen some other matches being rescheduled and other. And I think, like you said, we should try to be professional. I mean, if there is need for a rescheduling, everyone will understand that there is a need. Right now, I cannot tell you why the game between Bendel Insurance and Doma United, have been rescheduled. Maybe you have a reason, but I do not know the reason why it has been rescheduled. So I do think that, the organizers of the league, in as much as, we're cutting them some slacks, given what they did in the Abridged League, they should try to be professional in the scheduling of games. Let's stick to the fixtures and then let's run and see.
Fixtures in the Nigerian Professional Football League, match 6 comes up today, but of course, that encounter has been taken to the weekend. But later today, we will see Rivers United at the Danayam Stadium against Heartland FC. Rivers United so far have demonstrated that they are poor travelers.
They are indeed poor travelers. Apart from, traveling poor, they've also not been fantastic. Yes, it's my darling team, but I have to say it the way it is. We've struggled even at home. I mean, look at the number of matches we've played. We've had some draws even at home, where we say, it's our slaughter ground. And then for Heartland themselves too, they're not doing really well at the moment. They're also a struggling side. Can we take advantage of the fact that, Heartland are not doing well and then, capitulate on that and then get the result? Time will tell. But just hoping that we will be able to get a decent result. If we get a draw, not a bad one, but it would be nice if we get all 3 points because Heartland themselves are sick at the moment. In as much as we are also sick, but I think, the problem is more with Heartland to play against Heartland today.
Talking about Heartland FC at home today against Rivers United, and one other fixture will be at the Eke Township Stadium, the new home of Aqua United. They have Gombe United to contend with. Aqua United have seen 5 matches in the Nigerian Professional Football League
with no win.
Very sad one for 2020 Nigerian Premier League champions. Unfortunately for them, they seated, comfortably at the bottom of the Nigerian Professional Football League, and which would have, if you ask me, warranted them to change, base from the Uncommon Stadium to the Eket Stadium. We hope they find their luck there and get a result against, Gombe United today.
One team that finds their luck at home is Kano Pillars, and they have Bayelsa United to contend with today.
Kano Pillars, another side that is very sick, having gained promotion to the Nigerian Professional Football League, the top flight. One would have expected them to come in with some level of decency, but they have started from where they left off 2 seasons ago when they were relegated to the second-tier league. They had issues against Rivers United the last time they played, and they have been fined and banned. We hope this time around they're going to be playing against, of course, our neighboring Bayelsa will also be able to get results because they have had a poor run. When I mean a poor run this season, we hope they also find their rhythm very soon.
Kwara United will be at home to Sporting Lagos, one of the new entrants to the professional football league here in Nigeria.
And a side that is doing very well.
Well, Niger Tornadoes have Eyimba to contend with. Eyimba with catalog of problems. Can they survive?
A whole lot of distractions around Eyimba. I am even thinking that in a short while, we'll get to see a release, from the management, the club hierarchy. Because I saw a report where Finidi said that some of the players that were registered for the CAF, Super League, were players that he didn't get to know more than half of the players. He said he knew just, he was made, to register about 4 or 5 of the players. The other ones, were done by the club hierarchy. And this is not how it should be. They're having a whole lot of problem. I was telling somebody, yes, I know that Coach Finidi George also needs some level of upgrading, but I also do think that the club themselves, the players themselves that they have right now are not, top-notch players. When they won the CAF Champions League back-to-back in 2003, 2004, they have players who were better. So even if you bring a certain Carlo Ancelotti or a Pep Guardiola to the side, they will still not get results because I do think that the players they have are within, below average. You don't need the best of players to win matches. All you need to get is average players. And if you have at least 6 average players in your team, you're good to go.
Well, Eyimba International seem to be in their stress right now, following the aftermath of their crashing out of the African Super League. The coach has said the players in the squad are not players, which he recommended, so to say. They were brought in by the sporting director, and there is a lot of infighting right now going on in the Eyimba International, and I'm really, really very disappointed. Yes, disappointed because when you have a chairman of a club that has the pedigree of Kanu Wankwo, you have a coach like Finidi George, you have a sporting director like Ifeanyi Ekweme. These are former players who had played football at the top level. They cannot work together and work in a professional setting. Then the whole glamour for saying that football administration should involve
ex-international should be
not to work. And
you have a coach ex-international, you have the chairman ex-international, and that's why I said you should have allowed Kanu.
I'm worried. No. For where I'm going is you have a sporting director who just bring in 14 players to the squad, and to not based on the recommendation of the coach. And at the stage, we are told that even some of the players that were played in the first leg in the African Super League were not
recommended by.
We are not giving visas to travel for the second leg, and so they had to make do with that.
So
I'm very bothered about the way the team is being run in a purely, will the whip situation, and not as a professional setting where you have a chairman who has played in the biggest football club side in the world.
Played in the biggest tournaments in the world.
So I'm very disappointed that this is going on.
I also don't think that a similar thing that is affecting Aqua United now. They have a coach who was doing fantastically well here with Rivers United, Fatai Osho, and moved to Aqua United. They are not doing well, and this has been the problem of Aqua United. You don't get to, overhaul the entire team at the beginning of every season. Aqua United, every season they bring in 15, 20 players, and you expect to get results. No one does that and get results. You're doing a particular team season in, season out.
United in yet another fixture. Remo Stars will take on Shooting Stars, one of the biggest you can find in the southwest of Nigeria.
Yeah, a big match there for Remo Stars. I think, I will always, give thumbs up to Remo Stars. If there's one thing I think, that is running their club professionally is Remo Stars, and of course they've shown that even on the field of play, even though they've not been able to make an impact, on the continent. But I'll have my eyes and my sight on that particular encounter.
I had my eyes on the fixture involving the Super Falcons of Nigeria as they took on their counterparts from this last night. It ended 4-0 and overall 5-1 on aggregate for them to now take on the next qualifier for the Olympic ticket coming up next year in Paris. Super Falcons ordinarily should not be so bothered about beating a team like Lucy of Ethiopia.
But then we had a draw in the first leg.
1-1.
But right now they've shown that they are actually one of the big teams on the continent, and they proved that 4 unreplied goal. But I think they have to be wary when they go up against Cameroon. The Lionesses of Cameroon have been a big nemesis to us. I remember at the London Olympics, they were the ones that deprived the Super Falcons from participating to play against the Lionesses of Cameroon and get that one done. The last 3 Olympics, our ladies haven't been there in the football event. So just hoping and believing that they will be able to get one pass against Cameroon, who are their next opponents.
Well, time for us to go straight up to Europe, and the Carabao Cup it will take center stage later tonight across England. West Ham will host Arsenal in one of the fixtures that promises to be electric.
West Ham will be up against Arsenal. That's a big game, and Declan Rice, will be facing. He's a former club today. How well he performs will be something we need to see. He has been speaking well of West Ham ever since he left West Ham to Arsenal. But then something tells me that Arsenal will just prove that they are really big boys, and they might. But then the Carabao Cup is a different kettle of fish altogether, so you never can tell which side is steady. The pendulum will swing. But on a good day, it might be a bad day for Arsenal, or it might be the other way round.
Chelsea has an encounter as well tonight. They have Blackburn Rovers to contend with, and I think they should be able to sign out the Blackburn Rovers. But this is the Carabao Cup. It is full of surprises as well, and I don't know what to make of it. But if anything I see here is what we can go by, Chelsea is not in a very good mood.
They are now. When you said on a good day they should be able to take out Blackburn Rovers, I don't think they will, given the psychology of the team at the moment. 2 weeks ago, you had an opportunity of beating Arsenal clean 2-0. You couldn't. Just last weekend, you lost 2-0 at home. I don't see. There's a whole lot around the Chelsea side. If you ask me, if I had a white paper to bet today, I will go the way of Blackburn to win Chelsea.
Well, one match too that a lot of people keep an eye on is Manchester United versus Newcastle United. The Chelsea have problem. Manchester United as well have even bigger problem.
Well, it could be payback time for Newcastle United against Manchester United. Remember, last season it was Manchester United, Eric Ten Hag's first trophy, and of course having broken that jinx of a United not winning trophy. Newcastle United payback today. Will it be a day of vengeance, a day of judgment for Newcastle today? Time will tell.
Well, we have to wrap up the show, and the biggest fixture on the continent of Africa with a lot of money at stake is the African Super League, African Football League, and tonight in Tunis, they will have a return leg fixture involving Esperance and Wydad Casablanca. Quickly, we're also running out of time. Esperance versus Wydad Casablanca. It looks like Wydad has an advantage after month of the first leg win.
Well, Wydad should have an advantage, but then these are two North Africans, battling for the big money there. So it could go either. We'll just have our sights, I mean, we just have our eyes, watching to see, which side carries the day. But if you ask me, I should think Wydad, they are the reigning champions of the CAF Champions League, and I do think that they will be able to replicate that form when they go up against, Esperance of Tunisia today.
In the semi-finals of the African Super League, and Ahali will take on Mamoli Sundowns from South Africa.
Well, Al Ali themselves, are a team that have written their name, they've written their name in